The possibilities are endless when mapping out an interconnected universe of established characters and storylines, allowing the audience to jump right into things. The DCU, from what we know, doesn't convey superheroes or metahumans as a new phenomenon. Metahumans are definitely more of a problem now, but they've existed in this continuity for a long time. And given how stories will be set across different time periods, there's a lot of storytelling potential to explore. The approach in developing the first slate of movies and shows is different than one might have expected. A lot more emphasis is put on creative freedom and using the heavy hitters of the DC universe to shed light on the lesser known characters that offer the diverse range of tones the DCU strives to delve into. It's a really interesting question how the most prominent heroes exist in the modern day and how long they've been around. Not every notable crime fighter has made their debut around the same time. Characters like Batman and Hal Jordan have been around for some time, while Superman may or may not be in year 3 or something. Who knows where the Flash or Green Arrow are at. It brings up the matter of how these characters will be introduced or how they'll interact with one another for the first time, considering the Justice League at this point in time in the DCU hasn't been formed yet. One of the first theatrical movies to release after Superman seems to be a war-centric movie on Sergeant Rock. Reports have it that Luca Guadagnino is set to direct the movie, with DC Studios hoping to start production this summer in its UK hub. They're currently looking for an actor for the lead role. We saw glimpses of Sergeant Rock in Creature Commandos episode 3, the episode centered on the backstory of G.I. Robot, who was created during World War II. Sergeant Rock is the leader of the Easy Company army unit who fought in the primary battleground in Europe during the war. Not much is known about the movie thus far, but I think it could do wonders in establishing how much variety DC Studios is willing to convey in their projects. You have your big budget blockbusters like Superman and Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, but then on the other corner you have smaller budget wartime movies like Sergeant Rock or small budget horror flicks like Clayface. I think a movie like Sergeant Rock could showcase how far back the history of the DC universe goes, and possibly give glimpses in the first age of heroes or the Justice Society of America, as the JSA were the first ever superhero group and the first established group of heroes in DC canonical history, setting the standard for heroism for decades to come. It'd be cool to see the impact of metahumans through a more grounded perspective via Sergeant Rock and Easy Company. The events of World War II in the DCU would have played out slightly different given the presence of superpowered individuals. The JSA wouldn't have to play a major role in the movie, however, just a slight tease or cameo. I've seen some people speculate on the idea of Wonder Woman in this universe making her debut alongside the JSA during World War II. Typically in post-crisis DC Comics, Wonder Woman doesn't leave the island or come out into the spotlight until after heroes in the Justice League like Batman, Superman, or Green Lantern have made their marks as heroes in the modern day. I'd imagine they'll do something similar in the DCU, unless they go the route of the most recent retcon, where they established that Diana made her public debut as Wonder Woman in the year 1939. She saved the president from an assassination attempt during the World's Fair, making her the first superhero that inspired the heroes of the Golden Age to step out into the spotlight. Regardless of when she makes her debut in the DCU, it seems more likely that people are aware of her existence given the speculation on Themyscira's existence in Creature Commandos. As Wonder Woman becoming a public figure, I'd imagine is the only way the general populace would ever become aware of Themyscira in the first place, unless their knowledge is solely due to Cersei's antics, given how she's a rogue Amazon who wants to take the throne and rule the island nation for herself.
I think people are aware of Wonder Woman, so I think there's some belief that it exists, but I don't know how worldwide known it is. James,
I think it's coming at a time at a point in time when people have heard of Themyscira. Now people are starting to believe that it exists, but still some people don't believe the story of, an island of all women.
Cersei's future visions of World War III showcased many prominent heroes that are out and about as of the current timeline of the DCU, as well as any future heroes down the road. For example, you see characters like Hawkgirl and Mr. Terrific who will appear in Superman and some of the Peacemaker cast. The Brave and the Bold will be Damian Wayne's introduction into the Bat family and donning the mantle of Robin. Him and Batman are just some of the characters seen with shadowy figures since their designs haven't been figured out yet. So seeing Wonder Woman could be an indication that she's already a known hero or will be introduced down the line. Preferably, I would like for Wonder Woman to have been around for at least a little bit, especially if Batman's a veteran and Superman is already a prominent hero in Metropolis. To sort of differentiate itself from the DCEU iteration, I think it could work really well to have Diana as a UN ambassador for Themyscira, taking inspiration from Greg Rucka's comic run on Wonder Woman. This would allow Wonder Woman to become heavily involved in the wider universe by having her tackle some of the political tensions seen in Creature Commandos between the US and Pakistan, as well as whatever's going on in the nation of Baravia in the Superman movie. It would convey her sense of trying to advocate for peace on man's world and the wider resources the island of Themyscira and the Amazons have at their disposal. There haven't been any rumors or hints at an upcoming Wonder Woman movie in Chapter 1, surprisingly. All we know of so far is that the prequel show Paradise Lost is in development, and James Gunn hinted at more Wonder Woman in animation back when he first held the position of co-CEO of DC Studios. Whether that be in the form of an Elseworlds project or a canonical DCU Wonder Woman animated series is anybody's guess. You can't really lay the foundation of a new interconnected universe of movies and shows without the two GOATs of DC. You don't know how relieved I was to hear that the DCU's Batman would have years of experience under his belt, a Batman who isn't in his second year of crime fighting and is still figuring things out. Don't get me wrong, I don't hate or dislike stories centering on Batman's early career working alone, but there's been a severe lack of Bat family in theatrical movies in the past few decades. Since this is Batman we're talking about, it's to nobody's surprise that he's a very important figure of the DCU.
That's just a way to introduce that Batman is a part of this universe. He's an important part of this universe, and he has an impact on it, including defeating such pretty dangerous, scary people like Phosphorus, who's pretty tough. Listen, I gotta tell you, I just love Batman. I love him. I've loved him since I was a little kid. He's one of my favorite characters. I've gone on record in the past when I was at Marvel saying my favorite character is Batman. I love him, and we're gonna do great things with him. He's the most popular superhero in the world, and I can't wait for people to see more of him, along with Superman, and together.
Help, Maya.
I'm getting hard. I'm getting hard.
There is a slight issue in how or when The Brave and the Bold will release in theaters. The current director of the movie stated how DC doesn't want to release two Batman movies around the same time, referencing the delay of Matt Reeves' The Batman Part 2, now set to release in October 2027. Creating a strategy to ensure the DCU's Batman movie and The Batman Part 2 don't conflict with each other, meaning The Brave and the Bold probably won't come out until late 2028 at the very earliest, possibly not until 2029. That's a long time to wait just to see the DCU's Batman in full effect.
But I want it now!
But I think there's a possibility of introducing Batman in a minor role within another project beforehand. The best project to do so would be in the upcoming Clayface movie. The Clayface movie is set to be this $40 million budget Hollywood horror tale centered on a B-list actor who injects himself with a substance to keep himself relevant, only to find out that substance allowed him to shapeshift into other objects and other people, which we see in full effect in Creature Commandos episode 5, where he gave Rick Flag Sr. and Frankenstein a hard time. It's more than likely this will be the Basil Karlo iteration, given that the writer Mike Flanagan talked about episodes of Batman the Animated Series serving as inspiration for the version of Clayface he's centering on. In a hypothetical scenario, Batman wouldn't need to play a major role or be a main antagonist to Clayface. I just think some presence could help in cementing the capabilities of this Batman, crafting him to be this shadowy figure, taking down powerful criminals like Clayface and Dr. Phosphorus leading up to his first movie. Even just casting a Bruce Wayne for a short appearance would also help in putting an end to the Robert Pattinson as the DCU's Batman nonsense. In terms of how long Bruce Wayne has been operating as Batman, Dr. Phosphorus mentions that it's been 15 years since he was physically touched by another person to the degree of Weasel biting his arm and breaking a bone, indicating that it's been that long since his transformation into Dr. Phosphorus.
If their hands wouldn't burn off, maybe. You know what it's like not being touched for 15 years?
Yeah.
That doesn't necessarily mean Batman has been operating for exactly 15 years. The scene of him taking down Phosphorus's operations could have happened years after he took over Rupert Thorne's organization for all we know, but I'd imagine it couldn't have been more than 5 years at best, and Batman having been a crime fighter for close to a decade would align with the timeline of Damian Wayne being brought into the Bat family. The decision to cast Hal Jordan as a lot older in the upcoming Lantern show was definitely a surprise to a lot of people, myself included. It makes me wonder what relationships he's already formed with any pre-existing heroes, and the endeavors he's gone through over the years. Although the fate of Hal Jordan remains up in the open to theories and speculation, I'd bet money John Stewart will be the Green Lantern for any main Justice League lineups, given Aaron Pierre's age and John Stewart being described as a new recruit in the Green Lantern Corps. I'm just glad they won't shy away from showing any extraterrestrial-based characters like Sinestro in the series after people's reactions to the show being stated as grounded. Some of the more recognizable Lantern characters like Guy Gardner are a part of the wide pantheon of heroes that have been around for a while. It's definitely a shift from the source material to have Hal Jordan mentoring a much younger John Stewart given their wide age gap, but I think it's important to have some of the older heroes use their guidance and knowledge to help drive the modern age of heroes, and potentially any future legacy characters. Depending on what point in time some of the more recognizable heroes made their mark, the DCU should have an emphasis on them becoming mentors. It makes sense with the Teen Titans movie in development for a handful of Justice Leaguers to have sidekicks. Batman would be on his 4th or 5th Robin if they plan on following the order of Robins from the comics. I'd really hate to see a Teen Titans roster without Donna Troy or Cassie Sands mark as Wonder Girl. Wally West as Kid Flash is a confirmed member of the Teen Titans, meaning Barry Allen has at least some history in the DCU.
Are you able to confirm any of those silhouettes? Like, I was surprised to see what seems to clearly be Starfire, and I'm pretty confident I saw like a Wally West Teen Titan Flash off to the right.
Yeah.
Did I see that right?
Yeah.
A while back in early 2023, there were a couple of lists on predictions of characters who could make an appearance in the DCU at some point. James Gunn himself actually chimed in to confirm that half the cast of each list would be in the new universe. The first 10 from IGN's list include Nightwing, Martian Manhunter, Lobo, Brainiac, Deathstroke, Red Hood, Zatanna, the Court of Owls, Mr. Freeze, and John Constantine. 5 out of 10 of these characters will be in the DCU. Using what we already know, Deathstroke and Lobo are safe bets with the Bane and Deathstroke movie in development, along with Jason Momoa being cast as Lobo in the Supergirl movie. I would become a certified hater of this universe if Nightwing didn't make an appearance in The Brave and the Bold. There's your Heart of the Bat family right there. The last 2 are a little tricky to pin down. If I had to guess, I'd say Martian Manhunter and Red Hood to complete the 5. Then again, I could also see one of the last slots going to John Constantine. The second list is comprised of 8 characters from Bleeding Cool, featuring Nightwing, Tara Markov, Jonathan Kent, the son of Clark and Lois, Roy Harper, Kyle Rayner, Vixen, Cassandra Cain, and Static. Like the previous list, Nightwing is a safe bet. As for the other 3, it could honestly go either way. I think Cassandra Cain will be a part of the 4 out of the 8 characters Gunn stated would be a part of the universe. Honestly, I could see DC utilizing Vixen and maybe Static. On the other hand, it wouldn't be totally out of left field for them to use Tara Markov if they want to use a Judas Contract-esque story with a Deathstroke and the Teen Titans. The last thing I'll touch on is the role of Jaime Reyes Blue Beetle in the DCU and any future implications of either him or Ted Kord. A Blue Beetle animated series is in the works that'll have the cast of the Blue Beetle movie return to voice act their roles. The director and screenwriter of the movie will serve as executive producers. The animated series will build on the solo movie but won't tell the same story. Rather, it'll craft a new story which could potentially lead to a return to the big screen for Blue Beetle. I think it's likely Ted Kord will play a role if the post-credits scene of the 2023 film is of any indication.
Whoever turned on my computer, get a message to my daughter. Her dad is alive. Ted Kord is alive.
If Gunn wanted to, he could just say the entirety of Blue Beetle is canon to the DCU, considering nothing in that movie is contradictory to the new canon, nor does it mention any events that transpired in the DCEU. Whether or not it actually meets this release window remains to be seen, but the Blue Beetle actor shared his hopes of getting things up and running this year to prepare for a potential 2026 release.
I'm ready to come back. We're hitting hard this animated project. Hoping to get this kind of settled out this year to show everyone next year, you know? He's got his hands in his kitchen. I don't want to walk in while the chef is doing his thing. Reason to believe the dude's lying, like, whatever, we're adults, whatever, like, say whatever you want to say. Like, I'm just happy to have done this first one, and shit, I'll continue, like, spreading the word about that while we get the second one drafted up, you know?
In due time, we'll discover all all the answers to our daring questions on the status of the DCU. We don't need to know every single little detail on what's to come 7 years down the road, assuming Superman is successful enough to even warrant a DCU lasting that long. We still don't know the full slate of Chapter 1 Gods and Monsters that's supposed to comprise of about 20 plus projects according to James Gunn. With everything that's been teased in current or future projects, any leaks or rumors from scoopers or legitimate sources, and what has been confirmed by DC Studios themselves, I've compiled a list of around 25 projects or so of my predicted slate for Chapter 1, taking into account everything we know thus far. Again, a good chunk of this isn't confirmed, it's more so educated guesses from the information I've gathered over the 2 years since Gunn's initial announcement of Chapter 1. Damn, has it really been that long? Hopefully the hype train keeps building leading up to the summer of Superman. I'm really intrigued by the variety of artistic visions, ranging from movies about Superman to lesser known figures like Sergeant Rock and the Authority. As long as the projects in question are well crafted, we might be eating good.